He was a very good boxer, but this is a giant Olympic gold medalist heavyweight. I mean, Anthony Joshua is fucking
Here's the
terrifying.
thing that nightmares are made of.
And he's got that one-punch nuclear power.
There and again, just operating on self-belief, but it isn't going to win Jake this fight. Him being ballsy is not going to win him this fight.
Joe Rogan is surprised when he talks about how much bigger Anthony Joshua is compared to Jake Paul. He explains that Joshua is a huge heavyweight fighter and an Olympic gold winner. Jake, on the other hand, is now facing someone way tougher than anyone he has fought before. Rogan also reminds people that Jake's hardest fight was against Anderson Silva, who was already 47 years old, so this new fight is on a whole different level.
The toughest guy you fought before was 40 years old Anderson Silva? That was the toughest guy so far you fought? You lost to Tommy Fury, who's a very good boxer, but this is a giant Olympic gold medalist heavyweight. I mean, Anthony Joshua is
Here's the
terrifying.
thing that nightmares are made of.
And he's got that one-punch nuclear power. One punch. And he's fast.
The host from the Wade Concept explains clearly what he thinks about Jake Paul and his confidence for this fight. He says believing in yourself is good, but sometimes confidence can turn into ignoring the truth. He thinks Jake is getting close to that point. He explains that you can't fool yourself when you're fighting someone like Anthony Joshua. Joshua isn't just a test of confidence, he's a test of real skill and strength. Wade says Jake needs to be honest and prepare in a real way, not just rely on hype. The tricks Jake used on older or weaker fighters won't work this time. Joshua hits very hard and can read his opponent's moves fast. Wade calls this fight a reality check, because Jake has to leave the world of showmanship and step into the world of true heavyweight fighters. If Jake trains with honesty, he might last longer in the ring. But if he lies to himself, he'll walk into a dangerous fight without protection. The host says Jake must face the truth before he faces Joshua.
Going to knock out AJ. And in any other timeline, we'd all point and laugh. And some people still are pointing and laughing, but I'm just sitting here going, what has he seen that makes him believe that? Not only of what's happened to AJ, sure, he's been knocked out by Daniel Dubois, another 240-pound champion of the world, but what has he seen in himself that makes him think he's going to knock out AJ when he hasn't knocked out anyone since Mike Perry? And Mike Perry, as we know, is not a high-level boxer. He hasn't knocked out a high-level boxer. He could hurt Julio Cesar Chavez, but Chavez knew to cover up and not engage. Maybe he thinks AJ will engage with him, and AJ does do some bad things in the pocket. Again, we'll save it for another video, but the only thing I can think of, and I said it at the beginning of this video, is Jake is absolutely delusional, and he's convinced himself of what's going to happen based on very outlying data, right? The Daniel Dubois knockout, how he struggled with Usyk.
Hey, who are you fighting when and why?
I'm fighting Anthony Joshua because I'm fucking him.
What?
I'm fighting Anthony Joshua because I'm him.
Holy shit, just let me take a second.
Is this motherfucker out of
Dude, it's light work. Light work.
Well, at least my good old friend Tyson Fury believes that I can win.
If Jake Paul fights Anthony Joshua, I'm putting £1 million on Jake Paul. I want some free money.
Smart man, Tyson.
I need to see a bet slip, Tyson. I know you got it like that these days. $1 million's like a, like a slight 10,000 to the rest of us, or maybe 1,000 after those couple of title fights with Alexander Usyk. But I need to see the bet slip. I saw the line when, and this is kind of crazy, I saw the line when the fight first got made, and we put it in the video. Jake was plus 800 to win. Jake has now moved to plus 650 to win. That's outright. I don't know by knockout, I'm not sure, but plus 800 was already like, okay, that's, that's a big underdog, and Joshua was like minus 1,500, but now Joshua's at minus 1,250, and Jake's at plus 650. This line is closing, and I'm wondering why. What are people seeing?
Make no mistake, this is the biggest fight of my career. I'm walking into the lion's den. I'm doing something that no one else has ever done before. I, Jake Joseph Paul, will knock out, defeat, and embarrass Anthony Joshua Friday, December 19th, live on Netflix. My voice cracked, I'm still going through puberty. The biggest fight of 2025, USA versus UK. He's got the belts, the size, the history, but I have the balls. Be careful what you wish for. Jake versus Joshua, Judgment Day. He has a 90% knockout ratio, but I have a 100% chance of drinking this Celsius.
Okay, there we go.
When Jake Paul steps forward at the face-off, everyone can feel the mood change. Anthony Joshua stands tall and calm, while Jake has to lift his chin just to look him in the eyes. The scene explains everything without words. Joshua is a true heavyweight with Olympic success and years of fighting top opponents. Jake is a cruiserweight influencer who entered boxing in a very different way. Their body language tells the story. Joshua looks strong and confident, like someone who has always belonged in the heavyweight division. Jake tries to look the same, but the size difference is too big to hide. Joshua's height, reach, and big frame give him a natural power that Jake just can't match.
For Jake Paul. But I would argue the pressure is now all on Anthony Joshua. Like, Jake, to me, you can tell me if you think I'm wrong. If Jake gets this the second half of the fight, Jake can celebrate. Like, Jake's won. Like, if he gets the 5th round against Anthony Joshua, to me, he has won this event.
Yeah, but it's, I mean...
You're skeptical that will happen.
I mean, aren't you? I mean, like,
I am. I'm deeply skeptical, but I'm just saying now.
The difference in this kind of fight is once you get up close and anywhere near any kind of clinch or anything, and the worst thing for Jake is it's not that just that AJ explodes within a clinch. AJ can fight long, he can fight short. I mean, the right hand he won't see. I mean, we talk about the right hand that knocks out Francis Ngannou. Forget the right hand. Worry about the uppercut on the inside. Worry about the left hook. Worry about the jab. I mean, the jab could knock him spark out. I mean, that's the reality. But if he gets hit by anything, it's over. It's just how it's going to be over. You know, you're going to get him clean, or you're going to, beat him up to a position where the ref's just going to have to jump in. But listen, if it goes 4, 5, 6 rounds, listen, good luck to him. Like I say, he's not, he's done the camps, he's done the spars. It's not like this is a guy who's never fought before. He's just well out of his depth. And to be honest, you see a few people say, we see that every week on fight cards. Do you know what I mean? But this is obviously at an extreme level of profile.
Angelo and Josh study the fight like true boxing experts. They say clearly that Jake Paul is not on the same level as Anthony Joshua or Deontay Wilder. Joshua and Wilder are the kind of fighters who can change a whole fight with one well-timed punch. Their power comes from years of training and from being natural heavyweights, something smaller fighters can't copy. Angelo and Josh admit that Jake is brave, but they remind everyone that bravery is not the same as skill. Jake has never fought someone who can punch with real heavyweight power and move with strong technique. They also mention that Jake once called out Wilder, which shows he doesn't really understand how dangerous top heavyweights are. Jake has never felt what a true heavyweight punch is like. They say that just staying on his feet against Joshua will already be a huge challenge.
I just don't think that he could compete at the highest level. And I don't think he'd beat the top 5, top 6 guys. But that in that weight class is where he'd be at, like say 180, 188 or 189, somewhere around there is where he'd probably compete. There's not a lot of talent there though. So he might be pretty good in those weight classes. Him competing in the heavyweight division against like Deontay Wilder or Anthony Joshua or anybody else, no. He gets annihilated. I'm very surprised he signed this fight.
I was shocked he signed this fight. I texted my buddy Bo because Bo follows boxing really well, and I texted him. I was like, dude, we might see a death. And he said the same thing. He's like, I cannot believe he agreed to that fight. But the numbers, the numbers that are, nobody knows the true payouts. They're saying it's around $200 million that they're splitting evenly. So they're getting about $100 million each. He said that it was $267 million. So I don't know who you believe or don't believe, or it could be they're splitting 200 and the 67 delta, they had to pay DAZN because Anthony Joshua has a contract with DAZN. And this fight's going to be on Netflix. DAZN.
It's DAZN.
So they, which makes, how the hell?
Please stop saying DAZN, okay?
DAZN.
That's like Saint Benoit, okay?
Where's the O in DAZN?
It's DAZN.
Sean Jones watches the face-off and notices when Jake tries to stare Joshua down. Jake tries to look tough, but when Joshua steps closer, everything changes. Sean says you can't scare someone who has already fought in huge championship fights with giant crowds. Sean also talks about Joshua and says he shouldn't put too much pressure on himself. Too much pressure can make a fighter stiff and slow because he starts to overthink. Sean believes Joshua fights his best when he relaxes and lets things happen naturally. If Joshua tries too hard to force something, it can lead to mistakes.
Joshua might lack in terms of his skill. Tyson Fury shines, and that's the movement, that long reach, the height, just the skill gap is insane. Tyson Fury would dance circles around Jake. He could beat Jake with one hand. Right, Joshua talks about how he's only focused on this fight. He's not overlooking Jake. There's nothing else booked for him. And he talks about some of the potential dangers of fighting Jake Paul.
Who are those opponents lined up for you in 2026?
My focus is on Jake Paul.
Okay, all right, fair enough. Is that true, though? Do you have those two fights lined up already?
They're not signed, they're not sealed, but they're opportunities, really. They're just opportunities in the game. But my main focus as signed and sealed is Jake Paul, so that's all I've got in front of me.
Do you agree with the assessment that if this fight goes longer than the Ngannou fight, it's kind of a...
No, Jake's a completely different fighter to Ngannou. Ngannou and Jake are completely different animals, so I can't compare the two together. Ngannou never boxed before either. Jake's boxed before. They're just different. Ngannou's a lot more slower, but a lot bigger and more powerful. Jake's quicker. Jake boxes in a completely different style. Ngannou's more upright. He can switch his southpaw and orthodox. Jake doesn't really do that. They're completely different fighters, if I'm honest with you. So I'm not trying to compare. At the end of the day, it's just what happens at the end of the night. I'm not in there to try and knock Jake out in 10 seconds or 8 rounds. I'm going to go in there and do a job. I want to really hurt him in the ring.
I think that's an important perspective that Joshua should keep going into this fight, is to not try and look for the knockout within a particular round. Do your thing. Forget about what Jake's doing. You're far more experienced. You're far more skilled. Don't put too much unnecessary pressure on yourself, because that's when sometimes you can throw a spanner in the works of your own game plan, because you've committed to this set prediction. And that's a sign of maturity there from Joshua. He's fighting Jake Paul. He could come in here and say, Jake's crap. I'm going to knock his head off. First round knockout. But he's not saying any of that. So they go back and forth for a little bit. Joshua just talks about how he's really focused. Then Ariel announces this fight is also taking place on the same card. Anderson Silva versus Tyron Woodley. Very interesting. I don't mind that matchup. I actually think within the realm of boxing and talking about retired MMA fighters, this is a pretty decent, even matchup. Anderson Silva, one of the best to ever do it in MMA. One of my favourite fighters. But he's getting a little bit old now against Tyron Woodley. Once again, an absolute machine in MMA.
Darren Barker studies the face-off video and points out that Jake keeps avoiding eye contact. He explains that fighters usually look each other in the eyes to show confidence and readiness. But Jake looks away several times, which shows he feels the pressure of standing in front of a real heavyweight. Joshua stays calm and solid while Jake keeps shifting around. Barker says Jake looks like someone who knows the danger right in front of him. They believe Jake understands this fight is much bigger than anything he has faced before. They also talk about how eye contact matters before a fight because it shows who feels in control.
Said it so calm. I'd rather just say, look, do you know what? This is a smash and grab. You can't blame me for taking this, but I'm sorry, Jake. You're going to get badly beaten up here. You're going to get badly.
He did say words to that effect in interviews afterwards.
Yeah, did he?
Yeah, he did, yeah. But it is
because that's the case. That's the case.
There's a moment, though, it made me laugh. There's a moment where they do the face-off one-on-one like that, and then they turn to the side. Jake keeps on looking at his eyes, and then Joshua just goes like that, and Jake goes like that.
Does he?
Yeah, which I'd have done as well, by the way. But that look told me that he knows he's so far in above his head.
And what was the other thing he said? He's willing to die in there, Jake Paul.
Yeah, well, he fucking will. He will. He's a knobhead. He's about to die. There's no jokes aside. He genuinely could die. It's just dangerous.
Chael Sonnen speaks in his usual clear way and asks if Jake is being brave or just acting careless. He respects Jake for taking such a big challenge, but he also wonders what Jake is really thinking. Sonnen says that bravery without good preparation can be dangerous. He thinks Jake might be chasing fame instead of understanding how serious this sport is. Joshua is not someone you choose to fight without deep thought. Sonnen explains that heavyweights can cause real damage with every punch, and that damage can last long after the fight. He doesn't call Jake stupid, but he warns that there's a thin line between courage and not knowing what you're doing. He says it all depends on how well Jake trains and whether he truly respects the danger in front of him.
Trick in the bar, the Francis Ngannou performance. What if Jake makes it 5 rounds, 6 rounds? What if Jake made it to the distance? What if Jake won a round? Now, it's very hard to believe. It's very hard to imagine. I think it's the big struggle with this fight. I cannot, off the top of my head, produce a fight for you in any form of unarmed combat that drew, that was exciting, where the audience did not have a reasonable expectation, an expectation to some degree that, well, if he does this or that, there is a way for this guy to win. And that's usually pretty easy to do because nobody knows anything about fighting. Nobody watching this right now, none of you, my millions of viewers, not one of you has ever boxed. Not one of you knows someone in the family. Well, my dad was a boxer. My uncle was a boxer. No, you don't. Not only are you not a boxer, you don't even know of a boxer. Now, I only share that because when I come out and say nobody knows what they're talking about when they're talking about boxing, like, it's not meant to be an insult. You don't know anything about boxing. It was never taught to you. None of you in recess boxed. None of your junior highs, your high schools, your colleges, your community colleges offered boxing. Your hometown didn't have a boxing gym. Now really think about that. Because as much as you love the sport and as much as you think that you understand it, not only do you not understand it, you can't even have a conversation with other people who do because they don't understand it. So what is a win? I think that time counts. I think that time is a very big deal. You're in that little bitty ring, and I know a guy can run backwards, but running backwards is not illegal in boxing. It is in wrestling.
Adam Catterall shares his thoughts calmly. He explains that Jake has built a big name for himself and has gotten better as a boxer, but he also reminds everyone that getting better doesn't mean you have no limits.
It's a proper fight, is it? We'll hear some proper talk then. If Anthony Joshua doesn't knock out Jake Paul within 6 minutes, it's embarrassing. Not only for him, but also for the sport of boxing. And if he does knock him out within 6 minutes, because it's a proper fight, boxing better pray that there's no lasting damage to Jake Paul. The phrase, fuck around and find out, springs to mind. This is not a game. You don't play boxing, especially not with a 2-time unified heavyweight world champion in his athletic prime. If you're gonna deal with clowns, expect a circus.
Fraser Clark shares an interesting idea. He says that when a top fighter faces someone much less skilled, the fight can feel awkward. He means Joshua might have to adjust to Jake's unusual movements because Jake isn't a normal heavyweight. Jake doesn't move like the boxers usually seen in this division, which can create odd moments. Clark explains that even great fighters sometimes have trouble finding their rhythm against someone who fights in a strange way. But he also believes Joshua will adjust fast. The awkward part might last only a short time, and then Joshua's skill and strength will take over. Clark respects Jake for taking the challenge, but he doesn't see any real way Jake can handle Joshua's natural power and ability.
What is that? I mean, would you like to be involved in another fight like that? People say you don't get paid for overtime in boxing. So a first round knockout is always nice, but you welcome a fight like that Fabio first fight.
If it has to go there, it has to go there. But I'm all for an early night. I'm all for getting home before Emmerdale, me.
Well, there you go. Well, you're main event now, so you'll be 10 o'clock, so you're not getting home before Emmerdale. A couple more before I let you go, Fraser. I've got to talk to you about this. It'll be remiss of me not to. Anthony Joshua is fighting Jake Paul. Now, if it goes past the first round, would you be disappointed?
No, because what you got to realise as well, like, I'm not sure how much of a mover he is. I've not watched too much of Jake Paul boxing, to be fair. But again, people won't understand when I say this. When you're boxing someone lesser than you, it can sometimes become awkward. I know people are going to say, nah, look at the size of him. And yeah, AJ probably should be getting it done in one round, but this guy's going to be awkward. He's going to feel, he might even block a shot, and then he's going to think, fuck this, I'm not getting any more of them. He'll be on his bike. AJ obviously should be good enough to close him down and pound him to death. Not to death, but pound him, you know what I mean? But maybe 2 rounds. Maybe the first shot, I don't know.
Well, you said there, one final one for me, Fraser, because you probably want to just get some food in you now. Even though you're a heavyweight.
I just had food before I weighed in.
You mentioned there that you want to get home before Emmerdale, but you want to be in fantastic fights. That being said, you're up against TKV. He's a good opponent. What can we expect? I mean, you're going to be headlining the first fight on the BBC for the first time in 20-odd years. What can we expect? What can the fans expect from you that are watching on BBC?
Listen, I've worked hard. I'm not sure how I looked on the pictures, but I'm in the best shape I've been in. I've really worked hard.
That's all for today's video. Stay tuned for the next one.